interest do visitors to the museum have in Perot?
A lot. You know, right away when people come in, I talk about the Perot family. Immediately, you know, visitors to Bermuda wonder if there's a connection to Ross Perot, who has a house here, and I have to say that no, there is not, as far as we know. The family were French Huguenots. They arrived here in the 18th century. Soon after his marriage to Susanna Stowe in 1814, they moved into this house, which was actually built by his father. But they moved in here right on their marriage. So that interests people right away. You know, this was his home. We're standing in his front hall.
Right.
So immediately he becomes a very human aspect to the whole tour.
Right.
So everybody stops to look at him. And you know what they say? He has a nice face. You can imagine him living today. You know, he's not foreboding. You know, he looks like a very interesting person. And I said, well, he was an innovative person with the stamp, which we can go into in a minute.
Right. Because it seems he was fairly progressive.
He was. I think he was. Yes. He was an MCP.
Right.
He was appointed postmaster, and it was an honor system. This post system that went between Hamilton and St. George's. One had to leave a letter in a box if you wanted it posted, and you would put a penny with the letter, and away it would go. Well, this worked okay for a few months, and then he found that quite often there were more letters in the box than there were pennies.
Right.
So he had to devise a system, and I think this is where he was really quite an innovator, and he did it on his own merits. He devised the Perot stamp,
right.
which he signed himself. He cut out each one individually, handmade, with Hamilton, Bermuda on the edge, and devised this stamp so that there would be no more errors in letters and pennies. But
right.
they were still a penny a stamp.
Right.
And so you had to buy a stamp from that day on. I think that was in 1849, when he devised this penny post stamp.
Now, is there much interest in the stamps?
Huge.
Are they? I mean,
huge
amongst visitors to the museum.
They always want to see it, and we only have a copy of a picture of it. And I said, well, you know, to see the actual stamp would be very difficult. I think there are less than a dozen around, and they fetch a huge amount.
Now, what about the pronunciation? What is it? Is it Perot? Perot?
Well, that's an interesting point, because, as I said, they were French Huguenots. They would have come here with the name Perot. They certainly would have had that. My feeling is that by the time he was living in this house, I think the name had gotten anglicized, and people were calling him Perot. But we even hear, as you mentioned earlier, Perot as well.
Right.
But I think he probably would have called himself Perot because, you know, he was certainly born in Bermuda. His father was born in Bermuda. It was very much of a, Anglophone.
Now the tree, the rubber tree that he planted, that sort of was like a direct link as well.
Oh yeah.
Do people talk about the tree? Does that grab people's?
Yeah, if they don't, I point it out.
Oh, okay.
I make sure I turn around and look through the window, and I said, you know, that monument out there, that monument of a tree, was planted by him, because it was brought up from British Guyana in 1847, one of 6. There are others around. There's one at the bottom of T Street, and a few others. I think maybe Government House has one.
Right.
Government House grounds, and he planted one right at the entrance of his home, which, of course, today is really a magnificent specimen.
Right.
And what a lot of people don't know is a lot of the old trees in the park were laid out by him. The park formed part of his gardens to his house, Parleville, where we're standing now.